Nitric oxide supplements have been around for a long time, but are they always safe? In the next few minutes, I want to show you some research you may not have seen before. Let's go. Now, before we go any further, what is nitric oxide? Well, it is essentially a gas that's made mostly inside our blood vessels. And if you take nitric oxide boosting dietary supplements, you'll notice that many of them contain either arginine or arginine and citrulline. These are two amino acids, and real quickly, how do they work? Well, arginine helps us make nitric oxide. Citrulline, in turn, helps us make arginine. So it's kind of a feed-forward system, and that's why I usually see both of these in many nitric oxide boosting supplements. This is not the only way we can make nitric oxide, and just for fun, I thought I'd throw out to you that another way you could boost your nitric oxide levels is to have better functioning sirtuins. Sirtuins are protein-based enzymes that do a lot of things in the body, and they're even touted to play a role in the aging process. And what do sirtuins need to work well? NAD, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, which in some circles, NAD is one of the most popular topics in the world of anti-aging medicine. So I bring this up because I have a couple of videos that I'll put in the description on how to raise your NAD levels naturally. I recommend you check those out for more information. But to get back on topic, what does nitric oxide do? Turns out a lot. Just a couple things it does is it is involved in helping cells communicate with each other, cell signaling, and that's actually very important. It doesn't get the attention it deserves. Another aspect of nitric oxide is it basically maintains proper blood flow by preventing blood cells from sticking together. You don't want sticky blood cells because then they can clog up your blood vessels and it can lead to heart disease, and that's never a good thing. So it maintains proper blood flow by preventing the blood cells from sticking together. Now, a third way that nitric oxide works is literally by helping us make new blood vessels. This is called angiogenesis. It's actually a very neat concept and it's something that nitric oxide does. And I have put a essentially asterisks next to cell signaling and angiogenesis because I want to touch on them in a minute. But again, let's move on for right now and move on to the other thing that nitric oxide does. And this is the most popular function of nitric oxide, I think, that most people are aware of, is it helps with vasodilation. Vasodilation means the expansion of blood vessels. Nitric oxide relaxes the muscles in our blood vessels, opening them up. So in theory, this means you'll be able to get more blood and oxygen and nutrients to other parts of the body. And that's why these dietary supplements are usually promoted. Because if I can improve the blood flow to different parts of the body, well, I might help you improve your exercise ability. I might help your heart be stronger and may even help in the bedroom. Now, that's usually how these things are promoted. So generally the idea is nitric oxide is good, nitric oxide supplements are good, but again, is this always going to be the case? Let me present some research that you may have seen before, such as this investigation. Arginine supplementation in peripheral artery disease, no benefit and possible harm. So we've got 133 people who have heart disease, that's peripheral artery disease, it's fancy talk for heart disease, and they're also suffering from intermittent claudication. That essentially means when they walk for short distances, their legs hurt, and that forces them to not walk anymore. So for 6 months, these individuals are given 3 grams of arginine or a placebo. They are told to regularly do basically a treadmill test. They've done a treadmill test to keep the blood flowing, to strengthen the muscles and the legs and hopefully improve their condition. What do they find? After 6 months, well, those taking arginine, well, they had higher arginine levels in the blood. That makes sense. But interestingly, their nitric oxide levels were no different than the people taking a placebo. Their nitric oxide levels didn't go down, but they didn't go up either, and that's odd. More odd than that is that the people taking the placebo, they actually improved better than the people taking the arginine dietary supplement. So again, you'd think that more arginine means more nitric oxide, means better blood flow to the legs, and this in turn might help them, reduce their intermittent claudication. But in this study, the people taking the placebo, they improved better than those who were taking arginine. So these researchers basically say that arginine is not helpful in people with intermittent claudication and peripheral artery disease. Now, that's one of these studies that are out there. Another one, which I find a little bit more concerning, is this one, arginine therapy after acute heart attack. So we've got 153 people who've had a heart attack. They are randomly assigned to get either arginine or a placebo for 6 months. They're given 3 grams of arginine 3 times a day. That's 9 grams of arginine a day. And what do they find after this 6-month study is over? No difference in their blood vessel functioning. Their blood vessels were not less stiff after 6 months of arginine. And not only that, their heart did not pump any better. There was no greater ejection fraction. Ejection fraction is the fraction or percent of blood that is ejected from the heart in a heartbeat. And so that didn't improve either. But what they did find is something a little weird, and that's 6 of the people who were taking arginine died during this 6-month study. Nobody in the placebo group died. So these researchers concluded like this. They say arginine, when added to standard post-heart attack therapies, does not improve blood vessel functioning or heart functioning, and may be associated with a higher risk of dying after a heart attack, and they can't recommend it. So again, kind of interesting, and I would say I don't think this gets out to people enough. So those who've had a heart attack and maybe you're considering a nitric oxide dietary supplement, good idea to run this past your physician. Now, let's leave this study alone and let's talk about perhaps maybe cancer. Could nitric oxide boosting dietary supplements cause metastasis or the spreading of cancer? Again, I want you to realize cancer is complicated and nitric oxide is complicated as well. These researchers rightly point out that nitric oxide can have both pro-metastatic and anti-metastatic properties. It may actually have anti-cancer properties, and that's good, but it may also have some pro-cancer properties as well, and that would not be good. So again, basically what they say is nitric oxide has been clinically connected to poorer cancer outcomes. And maybe one of the reasons why this is so is that, remember, nitric oxide increases angiogenesis. That's the formation of brand new blood vessels, new highway networks, if you will. And if you make more blood vessels, well, turns out cancer cells need a blood supply. And so by making better blood supply, maybe this could cause the spread of cancer. Again, it is complicated, but I don't think this has gotten out to people, and I wanted to bring it to your attention. So again, it's complicated, but again, somebody who has cancer may not be something they want to look at. Again, same thing here. Another study, nitric oxide and aggressive behavior of lung cancer cells. These researchers point out that in lung cancer, higher levels of nitric oxide is led to not living as long with lung cancer. Again, could this play a role, be related to, say, the angiogenesis aspect of nitric oxide, or even the fact that nitric oxide helps cells talk to each other? Remember, it is involved in cell signaling. So again, it is complicated, but I think these are topics worth bringing to people's attention, especially if they have any kind of health conditions. That's all I got for you for this video, gang. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. I'll answer them myself. Don't forget to like and subscribe this video. And until next time, I'm Joe Cannon. Go out and make a difference.